Hello, and welcome back to Keep Indiana Learning. My name is Tim Arnold, and I'm a digital learning coach with Keep Indiana Learning. And today I'm here with my fellow digital learning coaches, Brenny and Melissa Wally, for the penultimate episode, always wanted to use that word, of our book study series, Keep Indiana Reading, the Shift to Student-Led Edition. Today we're going to be discussing Chapter 9, From Teachers Initiating Parent Communications to Learners Owning the Conversation about their progress. But before we dive in, let's do some introductions.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brenny Coomer. I'm also a digital learning coach for Keep Indiana Learning, and I'm excited to be here for this amazing episode. I don't have like the fun vocabulary word that Tim does for today, but I am the Assistant Director of EdTech for BCSC in Columbus, Indiana. I love talking about UDL, accessibility, and blended learning, and I'm really excited to talk about this chapter today.
I'm Melissa Wally. I also am a digital learning coach for Keep Indiana Learning. And then my day job is an ed tech specialist for Hanover Community Schools up in Northwest Indiana. And I love doing all the things to support teachers and help them feel comfortable with integrating technology in whichever way is needed.
Welcome to both of you. My name is Tim Arnold. I'm from Richmond Community Schools. I'm a 34-year public school educator with 26 years in the classroom and 8 as a district e-learning specialist. As I said, I'm a fellow digital learning coach and also a HEC board member. So as we hop into this chapter, it starts with a hilarious scene of Catelyn Tucker being called because her son, I believe, has spit on someone at school, and that starts a chain of events. And what it really culminates in is her thinking of this phrase, so much happens during my children's school days that I don't know anything about. And that really stuck with me. What did you guys think of that opening scene?
So it brought to mind a very similar situation that happened to me. And I was teaching first grade, and I had a first grader at the time, and she's now a full-fledged adult. She's a teacher herself. But at the time, I got this phone call in the middle of the school day, and I remember it like it was yesterday. The kids were at special, and I got this phone call that my daughter, who never had a behavior problem, she was a very good student, and she had thrown wood chips at a student. And I was horrified and shocked and, took the same approach that was described in the book. Like, I will take care of it. Don't worry. And as I'm speaking in my mind, I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't even know how to handle this as a parent. And then the teacher actually calmed me down and was like, you know what? We actually handled it at school, so don't worry about it. But I understand exactly what she's talking about, because my mind was spinning. Like, what did I miss? Is there a situation? What's happening? Is she being bullied? Has she been doing this all along and I didn't know? So I understand exactly what she meant, that there's all of this, unknown that you just don't know when you have kids and they're at school.
I love the opener as well. I remember when I had to be the teacher kind of making this phone call to a parent, and I kind of feel like I fumbled my way through it. So when reading that chapter, I was like, oh gosh, sounds like this teacher did a much better job in handling it than what I did. And when I had to make a phone call like that, it was actually to the parent of a student who works at the administration building in our district, and we work together now, and we're cool and stuff. And it was just this out of characteristic behavior for this child. And I just remember being like, this is so nerve-wracking. I don't feel like I was equipped to handle that conversation. And then it was also really the first time that I felt like I was sharing information about the student with the parent, and it was a negative, which also didn't feel good either. So it kind of got me thinking about that, and that probably it is super important for our students to be sharing about their learning with the teacher, with their parents more regularly than just the phone call home, where our hearts probably do stop when we see that and we're like, oh gosh, what's wrong? Versus, oh, this is exciting. Like, what good thing is happening today?
Yeah, I definitely, I've fallen into the category of I felt this introduction. I taught many grade levels and many subjects, but I always taught seventh graders. And that was a transition year to a new building. And so what I heard all the time was that parents were not ready for the less frequent communication that was being provided by myself and my colleagues. And so I was constantly trying to do things to help fill that void. Clearly, I should have read this chapter a long time ago, because there were things I could have had the students do to help fill that void. I was doing newsletters, and I would send one home each 9 weeks, and I put a little coupon on it so the parents could sign it, and the kid could sign it, and that's how I got it home. And the kid cut that out and brought it back for some bonus points, and was trying all the things, but I didn't get as far as this chapter, turning over some of that responsibility to the students. So I was excited to look at the strategies that were offered in this particular chapter.
I would agree with that too. And I think putting myself back in the shoes of first year, second year teacher Brenny, I taught seventh graders as well, also a transition year. I love my seventh graders, but I don't feel like when I was a brand new teacher, I was super equipped in navigating those conversations. And I felt comfortable in designing things. I was still working on some other things of being a teacher and classroom management and stuff like that you learn with experience. But navigating conversations with parents was something that I was always super intimidated by. And I still think now, even when I have to talk to parents in the community, I still get a little nervous, because that's not something they necessarily teach you in teacher prep programs. They say contact parents, make sure they're in the know, but I don't feel like we always get a whole lot of training on what that actually could look like. And I love this chapter because it gives you so many strategies that I think can build the confidence of some of our new teachers, that would have helped me when I was in these shoes, to think I don't have to be the only one who's sharing that information. The students can own some of this too. And it just really, I was like a sponge with this chapter. I just wanted to absorb all of it, because we lead some new teacher things in my district, and I just loved everything about this one.
Yeah, so let's take a look at some of those strategies. The very first one is semi-monthly audio or email updates. And friends, I'm here to tell you, Flip or Flipgrid and that teleprompter mode that they now have was made for this. They also provided some really awesome templates for students to use, whether it be a strengths and grows template, or a high of my week or a low of my week template, or hey, I'm behind or I need support. They provided those things readily available. You plug them in, the kids enter their information, and they're telling you in a Flip. And that's something that I'm going to moving forward, I'm going to really emphasize to the teachers that I serve.
I am as well, not only for current teachers, but especially, like Brenny said, for the new teachers. The first thing I thought of is, not only is that great communication for parents and families, but also just having the students think about it, like reflecting on what they've been doing. And that's really an important skill. I mean, I know a lot of adults are not good at that. I mean, I thought about that first time when you sit down in an interview and they say, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? That's hard. It's hard to do. But if you start doing that at such a young age, and you're just used to reflecting on your growth week by week, or reflecting on your goals, that it just becomes an innate part of what you do, and you can apply that to all areas of your life. So that's how I thought about it in the big picture of how that would actually help the student, in addition to the communication piece.
I love that. I love the metacognition piece. I don't think I had necessarily thought of that. And I love that you thought of that. So now I can use that as another reason to share. And I also put Flip down as something that I thought would be great for this too. And from an accessibility standpoint, Flip is just amazing because there's the ability to have captions, all of those things there. So supporting our special education students as well as their families. And then there's even translation and language features on there too. So I just love that this is a tool that can help express this and also make communication between families who speak all different languages and have different needs easier, and build that positive relationship between the teacher and the family.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Strategy 2 was a grow and glow digital slide deck. So we're talking about things like using voice to text, video, audio, images, links, so much automatic voice and choice for students built in right at that point. But I like the additions that they mentioned, like slides can have sentence frames, and the deck can grow over time. One deck, shared one time, used every 2 weeks, sheer genius. At the end of the year, you've got this wonderful map of the learning and the growth that's gone on as explained by the student. So if you want to have one of those end of the year conferences that's student led, wow, get started. And at the end of the year, you're going to have this amazing resource to use.
What a treasure to have as a parent to see, like, this is where not only like in, their learning, but also just their writing, everything about it would be, just such a nice keepsake.
Agreed. This kind of segues into strategy 3 a little bit, but I'm also thinking from the lens of a special education teacher or an EL teacher. You're having those case conferences with the families throughout the year, but sometimes providing timely feedback on progress towards those learning goals and IEP goals throughout the year can be a little tricky. And this is an artifact that you can use in those discussions. It can celebrate that student so that when you have those case conferences into the next school year, it's something that you can celebrate. And it's also just nice to have more of that input shared with the family along the way.
Parents could still make comments as long as that ability was on there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else on strategy 3, the student created toolkit?
I thought this was genius. I don't think I'd ever honestly seen or heard of that before. I know that part of being on case conferences and teams myself, we were always thinking about how can we help students advocate for themselves? And it'd be like, well, we want them to have that as a goal, but why not use this? Like, this is a great way to have students advocate for themselves by having them think about tools and resources that they need to be successful. And then maybe you do some modeling of that by sharing some of those resources with families too, and really bringing them in as a partner in the child's education and thinking about what are some tools that help the child at home that I can also bring in to my classroom as well. I really like the idea of it being everyone working together to come up with that toolkit. And I thought the template on page 213 was an amazing starting point. So you don't even have to sit there and think of all of those resources yourself. It's already outlined for you.
I thought that one was nice too. I felt like that one might need a little bit of support from the get-go for families to, like, how does this work? How can we use this? What is everyone's role in this? And making sure that everyone understood it was collaborative. But I thought once it got going, it would be fantastic.
That's one thing I will definitely say, and I'm going to hold up the book here while we're talking about it. The just the templates alone pay for themselves if you get this. Every single chapter, every single strategy, the templates are provided and they're there for you to use. And online, you can get the links to the templates as well. So definitely take a look at those if you get an opportunity. Okay, so it looks like strategy 4 is upon us here. And strategy 4 is student designed digital newsletters. And man, I wish I would have thought of this idea when I was sweating over my own newsletters. And right now I can tell you, I'm envisioning Canva templates as we speak. So easy, so awesome looking, so impactful when coming from students. If you haven't dipped your toes in the Canva waters yet, it is time, because it is an amazingly free resource for teachers.
Yeah, I didn't think about Canva, but you're right. I was thinking more Google-ish, but yeah, you're right. Canva would be amazing for that.
Agreed. And I love that so many districts in Indiana have started to buy some of those district-wide communication tools or are using them. So I think what's nice with Canva is it's just so easy to export those. And then the parent or teacher can just communicate and share those newsletters there between each other the student has made too. So it just makes it easier to bridge those lines of communication and share.
Yeah, if you are lucky enough to be in a district that offers Parent Square, it has a really, I think, high quality integrated newsletter built into it. And so that's the kind of thing that your students might have a chance to see before they start building their own. Another thing, I don't know if it would work here exactly, but it's something that I know I've not spent enough time with, but I think probably some of you have, and that is Book Creator app. I saw somebody present just last week on it, and I was impressed because they were using it with older Project Lead the Way students. A lot of times I kind of thought it was an elementary program, but I'm seeing these incredible results with these middle school and high school kids expressing their learning. And I'm starting to think about whether or not that could be used with one of these strategies as well.
Absolutely. I actually wrote that one down for strategy 2 and also strategy 5. I love Book Creator. I could spend a whole live stream just talking about that one, and I'll spare you guys that. Just go check it out. It's amazing. But it's amazing. I call it one of those shiny, magical unicorn tech tools because it has all of the accessibility features that you need baked into it. You don't have to go and piecemeal other things into it to make it fantastic. And it could be wonderful for this. And what's amazing is that if you are using it for strategy 5, which is a student family journal, or even strategy 2, Glow and Grow, or even the newsletters, like what we're talking about, is you can make it very public facing or very private, and it has text to speech, it can translate, it just has all of the things and multimedia you can add into it. And there's already newsletter templates in there, so it works perfect.
Super flexible.
Okay, strategy 5, the last of the 5 in this chapter, the student family journal. I can tell you firsthand the power of a digital journal because I used one as a teacher with my colleagues. And we used it just for ongoing communication about any concerns or good news or discipline or celebrations or whatever it was. And it was just a simple Google Doc, but allowed us to be uber informed about our students immediately. So if somebody had a problem the first 2 periods of the day, I had a pretty good chance of knowing about it before they walked into my room. Or if I'm the only person they're having trouble with, maybe it's me, maybe it's not them. So something as simple as that. And then you think about how that same idea would certainly apply to students and their caregivers. And this is one I think I'm going to dig in on a little bit and see what I can get done here in my district.
Yeah, I thought that one would nicely integrate with into maybe like your LMS. Sorry, I was having a blank mind there, but into your LMS somehow you could assign it through there, and that would give the teacher access as well as the student and the family, depending on what LMS you have. But I agree. My only concern with that, like I always think about the student who maybe their family member doesn't respond, and then what happens? So that was my little caveat for that one. I love the idea and I could see the power, but you just have to know your families.
Agreed. I actually wrote down the same thing on that, Melissa, too, that I'm just thinking some of my own students who I know didn't always have the support at home that sometimes that they wanted. So I think that's the nice thing about this, is that they give you so many different strategies that you can provide some options for students or make a choice board so that whatever one's going to work well for those students and the variability we have in support at home, there's an option out there for everyone and a way to connect with families in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I love the idea of using many of the things we've talked about in terms of apps or programs with many of these strategies. And I'm thinking about this last one. I'm thinking about what if the parents want to or need to respond in a different language, and then the student translates, and then it's shared with the teacher, and how rich that experience becomes for all, because you're really getting to see what that communication looks like between parent and or student and caregiver. So
and I think that oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think that gives you such an insight into the home life that you would never have to.
Yeah. Okay, well, as we reflect here on chapter 9, a couple of reflection questions. First one is, how might regular student communication about their progress impact your students' feelings about the work they do? Another one is, how might the strategies suggested impact how families feel about their students' experience at school? You know, we all know if we don't tell the story, if our students don't tell the story of what's happening at school, somebody will. You know, my rule was, I'll believe half of what you say goes on at home if they believe half of what they say goes on in my room, and then we'll be okay. But yeah, any of these strategies would help bridge that gap and help us all tell the story of the great things that are happening in classrooms. So with that, we say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back in a couple of weeks for another chapter recap. And in the meantime, this session and all sessions will be in a playlist on the Keep Indiana Learning YouTube channel. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you to our guests.